Today, I've got a chilling story to share with you, one that will make you think twice about the quiet, lonely places we often overlook. Imagine a cemetery so silent, it's almost deafening. That's where our story unfolds, featuring a solitary cemetery keeper whose life takes a terrifying turn. So grab a blanket, turn off the lights, and let's dive into The Lonely Cemetery Keeper. I've always loved the peace and solitude that comes with working in a cemetery. My name is Arthur, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the keeper of this vast and ancient graveyard. It's a job that suits me perfectly, quiet, solitary, and uninterrupted. Most people would find it eerie, but for me, it's comforting. Or at least it was until things started changing. It all began one crisp autumn evening. The leaves had turned a fiery orange and red, casting a haunting glow over the cemetery. The setting sun was just a sliver on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and black. I was finishing up my rounds, making sure all the graves were properly tended and the gates securely locked. As I walked past the old mausoleum, I noticed something strange, an unfamiliar figure standing by one of the newer graves. My first instinct was to confront them, but something about their presence made me hesitate. They were shrouded in shadows, their features obscured by the falling twilight. I called out, but the figure didn't respond. As I approached, they simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind a chill that seemed to seep into my bones. I shook it off, attributing it to my imagination. It wasn't the first time my mind had played tricks on me, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. But as the days went by, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. The cemetery, once a sanctuary of peace, felt increasingly oppressive. One night, as I was closing up, I heard faint whispers drifting through the air. It sounded like a conversation carried on a wind, but when I turned around, the cemetery was empty. The whispers continued, growing louder and more frantic. I tried to follow the sound, but it seemed to come from every direction at once. Then came the dreams. Vivid, nightmarish visions of the cemetery, filled with twisted, contorted figures emerging from the graves. I'd wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. The line between reality and nightmare began to blur. I started to see shadows moving out of the corner of my eye, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking just beyond my sight. One particularly stormy night, I was forced to take shelter in the old caretaker's cottage on the cemetery grounds. The wind howled outside, and the rain battered the windows. I tried to distract myself by organizing some old files, but my hands trembled uncontrollably. The storm seemed to amplify the eerie atmosphere, making the shadows dance on the walls in grotesque forms. It was then that I heard it, a soft tapping at the window. I approached cautiously, peering out into the darkness. Through the rain-smeared glass, I saw a figure standing in the cemetery, illuminated by intermittent flashes of lightning. It was the same shadowy figure from before, but this time it was closer, and it seemed to be beckoning to me. I grabbed a flashlight and made my way outside, the storm soaking me to the bone. As I approached the figure, it turned and walked towards the old mausoleum. My instinct screamed at me to turn back, but curiosity got the better of me. I followed, my footsteps echoing in the silence of the cemetery. Inside the mausoleum, the air was cold and stale. The dim beam of my flashlight revealed an ancient stone altar covered in strange symbols. The figure stood at the altar, its back turned to me. I called out, but the figure remained motionless. I took another step forward, and the figure slowly turned to face me. What I saw will haunt me forever. The figure had no face, just a smooth, featureless surface where eyes and a mouth should be. A low, guttural growl emanated from it, sending chills down my spine. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. The figure moved towards me, its presence oppressive and malevolent. I fled the mausoleum, stumbling through the storm as if trying to escape the very air around me. When I finally reached the safety of the cottage, I locked every door and shuttered every window. I sat in the dim light, shaking uncontrollably as the storm raged on outside. The next morning, I discovered that the mausoleum's door was wide open. The symbols on the altar had been altered, as if someone or something had been tampering with them. I felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as if the boundaries between the living and the dead were beginning to erode. Days turned into weeks, and the haunting presence grew stronger. The cemetery, once a place of solitude, had become a realm of unspoken terror. I started to notice more figures in the shadows, more whispers on the wind. Each night, the sense of being watched grew more intense, and the dreams became more disturbing. I began to research the history of the cemetery, hoping to find some clue as to what was happening. I discovered that the land on which the cemetery was built had a dark past, rumors of occult rituals and restless spirits. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that something ancient and malevolent had awakened. One fateful night, as I walked the cemetery grounds, I saw the figure again. This time, it was no longer hiding in the shadows. It stood right in front of me, its featureless face reflecting the moonlight. It raised a hand, and I felt an icy coldness wash over me. I knew then that my time in this place was coming to an end. The cemetery had claimed me, just as it had claimed so many others before me. As the figure moved closer, I could feel the pull of the darkness, the sense of being drawn into an abyss where no light could penetrate. I don't know what happened next. Perhaps I fell into a trance, or perhaps I was consumed by the very darkness that haunted this place. All I know is that I am now a part of the cemetery, forever bound to its silence and its shadows. And that's the haunting tale of Arthur, the lonely cemetery keeper. Sometimes, the quietest places hold the darkest secrets. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more spine-chilling stories. Until next time, stay curious and stay brave.